Go grab a bag of fertilizer right now. Doesn't matter which brand. Doesn't matter if it's the cheap stuff from the hardware store or the premium bag your neighbor swears by. Look at the three big numbers on the front. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Now flip it over. Read the guaranteed analysis on the back. Every line. All the micronutrients, the fillers, the fine print. There's an element missing. Not a rare one. Not some exotic supplement. An element your grass pulls out of the soil in quantities that rival nitrogen itself, sometimes more than nitrogen. An element that's physically built into every blade, packed into the cell walls like rebar inside concrete. It's not on that bag. It's not on the next one either. Walk the entire fertilizer aisle and you will not find it advertised on a single label. That element is silicon. And here's the part that should genuinely bother you. Your soil is probably drowning in it right now. Tons of it, sitting a few inches under your feet. And your grass still can't touch most of it. It's the plant equivalent of dying of thirst while standing in the ocean. Over the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you what silicon actually does inside a blade of grass, why your lawn can be sitting on a mountain of it and still be starving, and the cheap, low-tech ways to actually get it into your turf. The ones the fertilizer industry never had a marketing reason to mention. Stick around because by the end of this, you'll never look at a bag of the 20th of October 10 the same way again. Here's the technicality that let silicon slide under the radar for decades. When plant scientists draw up the official list of essential nutrients, the ones a plant literally cannot complete its life cycle without, silicon doesn't make the list. A grass plant can, technically, grow, flower, and reproduce with zero silicon. So for most of the 20th century, it got filed under beneficial but not essential. And the entire lawn care industry took that as a green light to leave it out of the formula. But here's the catch nobody put on the bag. Grasses are not typical plants when it comes to silicon. They're some of the most aggressive silicon accumulators in the plant kingdom. Research on cereal and turf grasses has found that, on a dry weight basis, these plants take up silicon at levels equal to or even greater than essential nutrients like nitrogen and potassium. And turfgrass tissue commonly runs around 1% silicon by weight, which is a genuinely large number for a supposedly optional ingredient. When a plant works that hard, spends that much energy to pull something out of the ground, optional starts to feel like the wrong word. So what is the grass actually doing with all that silicon? That's where this gets interesting. When a grass root absorbs silicon, it's not using it for energy, and it's not using it to grow taller. It does something stranger. The plant carries the dissolved silicon up through its vascular system and deposits it as solid particles, inside and between its own cell walls. These deposits have a name, phytoliths, literally plant stones. And structurally, they're extremely similar to silica glass and quartz. Read that again. Your lawn is manufacturing microscopic glass and packing it into its own tissue. Think of the cell walls of a grass blade like a brick wall. Silicon is the mortar and the rebar running through it. A blade loaded with silicon stands straighter, resists bending, and holds its shape under stress. A blade running low on it is softer and floppier, a wall with nothing holding the bricks together. You've probably felt this without knowing what you were feeling. One lawn crunches firmly underfoot and springs right back. Another feels limp, almost mushy, and lies flat after you walk across it. Grass tissue structure, and silicon is a major part of that structure, is a real part of that difference. And that reinforcement isn't just cosmetic. It's the foundation for two of silicon's biggest jobs, surviving heat and fighting off disease. Picture the worst week your lawn goes through every summer. Relentless sun, dry soil, the grass wilting and going that dull blue-gray color by mid-afternoon. What's happening is simple. Water is leaving the blades faster than the roots can replace it, mostly evaporating through small pores and straight through the leaf surface itself. This is where silicon quietly does its second job. A meaningful share of those glass-like deposits get laid down just beneath the leaf surface, forming something close to a second skin. That layer physically slows water loss through the cuticle. The plant holds onto moisture longer, stays cooler, and keeps its structure and color further into a heat wave than it otherwise would. On top of that, the The mechanical rigidity silicon provides helps blades stay upright, rather than collapsing and matting down in the heat, which changes how the canopy handles direct sun and airflow. So, picture two identical lawns hitting the same heat wave on the same watering schedule. The one with more silicon banked in its tissue simply suffers less. It wilts slower and recovers faster. Field trials on turfgrass, including work on zoysia grass treated with potassium silicate, have recorded real improvements in color retention, density, and stress recovery when silicon is supplied. This isn't folklore, it's measured turf science. But heat isn't the only enemy this armor was built for. The next one is the reason golf course superintendents have quietly cared about silicon for decades. Walk a stressed lawn in late summer and you'll usually find it. Circular brown patches, bleached rings, that fuzzy gray growth low in the canopy at dawn. Fungal disease. It's the thing that can turn a decent lawn into a disaster overnight. And most homeowners respond by reaching straight for a fungicide. What almost nobody talks about is that silicon is one of the plant's own built-in defenses, and it works completely differently than a spray bottle. A fungus doesn't politely knock on the door of a leaf cell. It punches or dissolves its way through the cell wall. Now imagine that pathogen trying to force its way through a wall reinforced with countless microscopic grains of glass. The silicon makes that wall mechanically harder to penetrate. The pathogen spends energy trying to break in and often simply fails. That's a purely physical defense, and research on grasses shows this same silica reinforcement also deters chewing insects and grazers by increasing leaf abrasiveness. But there's a second layer that researchers find even more interesting than the wall itself. In several studies, silicon-supplied plants appear to activate their own chemical defenses faster and more strongly once an attack begins, priming pathways like the jasmonic acid response that ramp up protective compounds right at the site of infection. The reinforced plant doesn't just have a thicker wall, it has a quicker trigger. This is exactly why turf professionals managing high-value grass, golf greens, sports fields, the turf that genuinely cannot afford to fail, have used silicon products for years. They learned something the homeowner aisle never advertised. You can spend all season fighting disease after it shows up, or you can build a plant that's mechanically harder to infect in the first place. So if silicon does all of this, and it's sitting in nearly every soil on Earth, why does any lawn ever run short? This is where the real problem starts. Here's the twist that makes this whole thing feel almost unfair. Sand is silicon-based. Quartz is silicon-based. A huge share of the mineral content in ordinary soil is silicon. By raw weight, it's one of the most abundant elements on the planet, second in the Earth's crust only to oxygen. So logically, no lawn should ever run short. Except a grass plant cannot drink rock. It cannot absorb a grain of sand through its roots. The only form of silicon a plant can actually take up is a specific dissolved form, monosilicic acid, silicon that has gone into solution in the soil water. And the silicon locked inside sand and quartz is chemically stable and nearly insoluble. It just sits there, geologically patient, releasing into plant-available form at an extremely slow trickle over years, sometimes decades. So you end up with this almost cruel situation. Your grass is rooted in soil that's physically packed with silicon, while starving for the tiny soluble fraction it can actually use. The thirst in the ocean problem, playing out under your feet every single day, and managed lawns make it worse. Every time you mow and bag your clippings, you're hauling away grass tissue that the plant worked hard to load with silicon. Do that every week for years, and you're running a slow silicon export business and paying for the privilege. On lawns that are watered heavily and mowed frequently, that export can outpace the slow natural weathering that would otherwise refill the soluble pool. Now the whole picture makes sense. The element your grass needs most for toughness is abundant but locked away, and your own mowing habits can quietly drain the small usable supply that does exist. Meanwhile, the fertilizer bag in your garage never mentions any of it. You won't find a cheap home test kit for plant-available silicon the way you can grab a pH strip or an NPK soil test. Lab analysis is really the only precise way to measure it, but you don't need a lab to notice the pattern of symptoms. After your next hot, dry stretch, Walk the lawn in late afternoon and pay attention to posture. Well-mineralized turf tends to stand upright. Grass running short on structural reinforcement tends to lay over and feel soft, rather than springy underfoot. Press your foot into the turf and lift it. Strong blades pop back up quickly. Weak ones stay matted down. And think about your disease history. If your lawn is always the first patch on the block to brown, the first to catch every fungal problem going around, and the slowest to bounce back, that pattern of chronic vulnerability lines up with turf that's missing part of its structural and chemical defense. None of these signs prove a silicon shortfall on their own. But a lawn that's floppy, heat-fragile, and disease-prone all at once is a lawn that's practically asking for reinforcement. Here's the rule that governs everything from here. A plant can only use silicon once it's in soluble form. So the goal isn't dumping more inert mineral onto the lawn. You already have plenty of that. The goal is supplying it in a form the roots and leaves can actually take up. Liquid potassium silicate is the most common option, and it's the same soluble silicon product turf managers and greenhouse growers already use. Mixed with water and applied as a light foliar spray every few weeks through the stressful part of the season, it delivers silicon close to the dissolved form the plant needs, and the potassium that comes with it is itself a legitimate nutrient for stress tolerance. Food-grade diatomaceous earth is a soft, chalky powder made from the fossilized shells of diatoms, single-celled organisms that build their bodies out of silica. Because of its biological origin and huge surface area, it releases silicon far more readily than hard quartz sand. Worked into the soil or top-dressed lightly, it feeds the soluble pool gradually over time, and it does light duty as a physical deterrent to some soft-bodied pests. Horsetail tea is the free option. The plant equisetum, the weed you've probably cursed at the damp edge of your yard, is one of the most silicon-dense plants alive. Gardeners have steeped it into a simple tea for generations. Steep the stems in water, strain, and spray or pour it onto the lawn. It's slow and mild, but if the plant grows nearby, it costs nothing. For the long game, rice hulls, rice hull ash, and good compost made from grass clippings and grain-based material return silicon to the soil instead of exporting it. And the easiest move of all costs you nothing. Stop bagging every mow. Mulch your clippings back into the lawn, and you return the silicon the plant already worked hard to collect. You shut down the export business without spending a dollar. Notice the theme: soluble silicon, biological silicon, and simply not throwing away the silicon you already have. None of it is exotic. None of it is expensive. The fertilizer industry didn't leave it off the bag because it's complicated. They left it off because there was never a flashy 3-number marketing story in it. So here's what this actually comes down to. Silicon is the structural element your grass is quietly built out of, woven into the cell walls as microscopic glass, holding blades upright, slowing water loss in a heat wave, and hardening the plant against the fungus and insects that would otherwise tear through it. Grass is one of the great silicon accumulators in the entire plant kingdom, and yet it's missing from nearly every fertilizer bag on the shelf, while the abundant silicon already in your soil sits locked away in a form your lawn can't touch. The big numbers on the bag tell you how to make grass grow fast and green. They say nothing about how to make it tough. Those are two different goals, and for decades the industry has only sold you one of them. A fast, green, nitrogen-pumped lawn with no structural backbone is exactly the lawn that collapses in July and catches every disease that drifts through the neighborhood. Reinforce it, and you get a lawn that doesn't just look good on a calm spring morning. It survives the bad weeks. Next time you're standing in the fertilizer aisle reading those 3 numbers, remember the number that isn't printed anywhere on the bag. It might be the one standing between your lawn and the next heat wave. Tell me in the comments, does your lawn show that soft, floppy, disease-prone pattern we just talked about? And which silicon source are you going to try first? The potassium silicate spray, the diatomaceous earth, or just letting the mulching mower do the work? If this helped, hit like and subscribe for more lawn care science that actually goes past the marketing. See you in the next one. Happy gardening.